Hey, it's Matt. I'm back with another transparent watercolor. This is a great horned owl. This one's a little bigger than many of the other ones I've been doing. This one's 9 by 24 inches, and what a cute little owl this guy was. We found him at Crane Creek in Ohio, and I took a lot of photos. So I did the sketch and then transferred it over to the watercolor paper, and I didn't need to frisk it anything on this. I ended up just doing some washes of a light tan onto the paper, and it kind of starts with a little more tan and goes almost off to the white of the page. I almost never work on white backgrounds, and this one I at least had a little bit of a stain of color on it, although it does approach white to the sides. I want it to be a very conscious choice of color, and so those first washes were done with the 1-inch flat, and these guys were just done with the number 6 round, I think. I started with a lot of these tans, you know, kind of the yellow ochre and burnt sienna and some of those other guys, and then started bringing in some of the shadowy kind of purpley brown bluey brown kind of colors in there to kind of build some depth. And this one I really tried not to put in a ton of detail. I have a tendency to, you know, kind of, I wouldn't say work things to death, but I have a tendency to kind of really work on the thing. And this one I wanted to have it be a lot looser and work quickly on this and have a lot less literal color on this. I didn't look at my photo reference a whole lot once I had the basics down. At that point, I was kind of trying to have the colors be interesting and inject a lot of color into those shadow areas. And have it ideally read properly, that it looks like, you know, a little fluffy owl in a crack of a tree, but to have something more colorful than you might expect to have in that situation. The other thing I did on this was kind of had the cracks kind of from the main cavity that the owlet was in kind of move off to the side and lose focus as they went off. So really it's this big V of shape, and it kind of then fades off as it goes off to the edges. You can see how much I work around the page. I brought in a lot of purpley blues to kind of push back behind the owl. My thought being that if I have these dark bluey, brown, purpley colors back there, and then I have the buffy colors of the owl that, you know, are kind of more warm, it'll really pop off the page and come out of that cavity well. At least that was the plan. We'll see how it worked. That number 6 brush is getting a workout on this one. That did most of the detail. So you can see on the edge of the owl on its left, the bottom of the painting here, I was bringing a lot of some of those purple tones that I used for the cavity to kind of push the side of the owl behind that cracked edge of the cavity that he's in. The lighting of my photo was very flat. It was kind of a gray sky day, so the sky went white, and it didn't have a lot of definition. My photo was from far away too, so I kind of had to blow it up, and so a lot of this, that was one of the other reasons I didn't go for a lot of detail. My reference didn't have it, so I was trying to keep it light and loose and not worry about every fluff on the bird. Kind of just let it suggest a lot more than I might normally do. And it was fun to do it that way. I should probably do that more often. This bird was so cute. It was sitting in this cavity up above us, and someone had told us where it was, where we could find it at Crane Creek, and so with our family went over with our tripods and cameras and sat there for a while photographing this thing, and it just would sit down and look out at you every once in a while. The cutest possible thing. The kids called it a Furby, and it does look like one of those little toys. And you can see I move around the page a lot. I've seen some people where they'll start on one part of the painting and then work their way all the way to the other, and it works for them. It's definitely not the way I was trained to do things, and not the way that I find works for me. You know, I definitely think it works better to kind of work the painting as a whole, and that may be from being yelled at in art school for so long. You think, you got to work around the page, and you know they kind of drill that into you, that don't work on one area for too long. So it definitely, I think, it helps me when I'm working on these, kind of build a cohesive piece and make sure I don't overdo one area and neglect another. So for some of these areas that are smaller, I'd switch to that, I think this is a number 2 round that I'm working with now. You can see in the background that I use a butcher's tray. Oh, that's a great way to go for mixing paints, because you can see exactly what color you're going to get on the page. On the white of that butcher's tray, it ends up being the exact same color when you go to put it on the actual watercolor paper. And the paper I'm using here is it's a block of Arches 140-pound hot press paper. I love hot press paper. For some people it's fiddly to deal with. It doesn't take washes as well as a cold press paper. It tends to puddle a little bit more, but it doesn't have all those bumps getting in your way, so you can get great detail, and you don't have the problem of those little ridges and bumps, you know, just continually. I think of them as speed bumps when I start putting in the detail. It's I love hot press paper. And there you can see the reference of my little Owlet, and you can see it's not super detailed. We were pretty far away, and it was also backlit. You can see a little on the right lower portion of it that I had to invent some of the detail on this guy to have it read correctly in the final painting. But that was kind of the fun of it. I was definitely interpreting, not just copying a photo. It's not much fun just to sit and copy something. This was a lot more inventive and trying to figure out how to have it work. At this point, I started injecting a little bit more color behind the Owlet, and also on its belly at the bottom where it's going into the crack. And I think those cool kind of purpley blues really set apart the warms of the owl, the warm colors on the owl and the warm eyes, and I think it drove your attention more to it, and it also helped push those back while still giving a lot of interest to what's going on back there in that cracked out hollow of this log. It didn't look, foreboding or, creepy in any way. It looked a little inviting to have those kind of beautiful blues. And a lot of this, I think, was trying to balance where you have those, at this point I was like, oh, I've got all these blues up top and I don't have enough down by the bottom. So in the end, you kind of picked away at it until you got some balance between those two, and you ended up with something that you thought was good. So there you go. This is a 9 by 24 inch transparent watercolor of a great horned owlet. If you get a chance, have a peek at the blog or the website and leave a comment.